Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Just looking at the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox, a lot of people on my side when it comes to the Canucks. They should have kept OEL.
I'm not seeing that.
Neither am I. Today's guest, it's Thursday, and that includes Farhan Lalji standing by. Brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. This Saturday, Teddy Bear Toss Night at the LEC. As the Giants take on Everett at 7, bring a stuffed animal or buy one at the game and toss it on the ice when the Giants score their first goal. Very limited tickets remain. We had Ron Toigo on the show yesterday. Always well attended, he pointed out. Visit VancouverGiants.com /tickets. DJT, Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. Did you watch OEL last year? Please go and watch highlights of his play last year. Hell, go watch DiGiuseppe forecheck him this year for the game-winning goal the Canucks had against Florida.
There you go.
He was hurting last year. Hurt himself at the World Championships. As we bring in Farhan Lalji from TSN. Farhan, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Good, boys. I recall a day at the Teddy Bear Toss at the Coliseum when I brought my 4-year-old daughter, and we were sitting in the first row, and all the teddy bears came, and a bunch of them didn't make it over the glass, right? So they fell down in front of her, and she thought they were for her. And it was really difficult for me to, pry the teddy bears away from her and get them back onto the ice. She was quite distraught at the whole thing.
That's an awesome story. I thought you were going to say it's a dangerous place to sit.
Exactly.
But that takes it to another level. Hey, Farhan, Andrei Kuzmenko, you're in the media scrums. You hear what Rick Tocchet has to say about him lately. Is he being treated fairly by the Canucks?
I think so. I really do. I think Rick Tocchet is been pretty open and transparent about what he wants to see from the player, and he's just not consistently getting it. He's seeing some moments of improvement, but not consistently, not in all the areas. Whether it's defensive zone awareness, whether it's shift length, whatever it is, and I think he's at a point where he's aching for it. He's looking for it, right? So it's like he sees the smallest thing and he gets excited about it. But I also think that, when you've been going through this since last year, and usually it doesn't take this long for players to necessarily get that message, there might also be a part of him that just says, I think I know what I've got in this player, and it might lead to some bigger picture questions that need to be asked.
But 39 goals last year, Farhan. But we didn't hear these complaints very much last year, although Boudreau did sit him a bit last year.
Buffalo.
Yeah, Boudreau has moments with him as well, and so much of that damage had been done in the power play, and he's not necessarily the best power play option for them right now. I know they gave him some run again in the last game there, but, to me it looks like a better group with Phil Hronek out there. And you didn't know if he was going to be sustainable. I mean, his shooting percentage was right up there a year ago, and it's a different team now, different set of expectations with Tocchet and the coaching staff and just what they want to get done defensively, and it really does start there with this group. And he's not the only guy, right? I mean, like Phil DiGiuseppe, who's not nearly as decorated with 39 goals and a $5.5 million contract, Phil DiGiuseppe was the apple of the coach's eye at the start of the year, and now all of a sudden he's on the outside looking in. I think he's treating players pretty consistently. JT Miller got benched for 4 games, or 4 minutes of a game, I should say, to make his point and get it across. So I think he's doing that. I think Tocchet has been pretty consistent with his messaging. And here's the deal, guys. When you are scoring at an elite level, coaches are willing to overlook certain things to a point. When you're not scoring, they're not overlooking that stuff. They're just not. And so his production has to match the liability on the other end of the ice if they're going to continue to roll him out there. And if they're not, I'm sorry. It's not going to work itself out. So, people are asking the question about whether or not this player should be traded at this point. And you got to wonder whether or not there's ever going to be a meeting of the minds or a line that Kuzmenko crosses to get himself permanently back into Tocchet's good books.
Farhan, let's switch to football. The big story out of Jacksonville, that Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback, he was hurt last week. C.J. Beathard, they said something wrong with his shoulder. So, hey, Nathan Rourke, the Canadian, what chances are that he gets activated and actually plays Farhan here for Jacksonville?
Well, I think the chances of him getting activated this week are quite high. The chances of him playing, I think that's going to be totally injury dependent. So, earlier this year, Trevor Lawrence dealt with a knee injury, and it was a short week at the time. And because of the injury, they decided to put Nathan Rourke on the on the inactive list, right? So they promoted him to the 53-man roster, where you're allowed to dress one of your 5 inactives as a third-string quarterback, right? So I expect that to happen again this week, because even in the event that Lawrence dresses, he's not going to be close to 100%, so they need to have themselves protected. I would be surprised if Lawrence played this week. I know some people are kind of pointing to what Patrick Mahomes did last year. That's playoffs. That's do or die. I think they would be wise to give Trevor Lawrence a week off, and I think there's a good chance that happens and that Nathan Rourke dresses as the number 2. But I think at the very least, he is in uniform and dresses as the number 3. Whether or not he plays, I think that'd take a few games. And I say that because Doug Peterson is one of those coaches that really, really values experience at his quarterbacks, right? So, especially at his backup. So I think he's not going to give C.J. Beathard a quick hook in game 1 as a starter. Now, if all of a sudden Lawrence was out for 4 weeks, let's say, I think by the end of week 2, there might be some runway for Nathan to get in if Beathard struggles. But I don't think it'll happen, right away. Now, the shoulder that he injured was his non-throwing shoulder. But if Beathard got hurt, I think we could see him. And look, you know how I feel about Nathan. If Nathan gets on the field, he's going to do really well. And he's going to do what Jake Browning did. He's going to set himself up for another really, really good opportunity down the road, even if it's not in Jacksonville. So obviously we're all hoping he gets in, but I think in the short term, the only thing that would get him on the actual field of play in game is an injury.
Well, let's talk long term, because the CFL offseason after the Super Bowl, do you see any chance of CFL teams trying to go after Rourke this offseason?
I think every CFL team would go after Rourke this offseason. Look, he would be the best quarterback in the Canadian Football League next year, full stop.
Yeah.
But knowing Nathan the way I do, that's not going to happen. It's going to be at least another year. I think he's probably going to, in my opinion, he's going to be on another team in the NFL next year, and he's going to be in a different situation. This year, he chose stability and, guaranteed money and things like that. A team that was committed to only bringing 3 quarterbacks into camp, so he knew he'd have a spot, all of those things. Whereas I think next year he might put himself in a situation where he's willing to go to a team that might be a little less secure at the position, so that, he might get a shot, right? Like whether it was Arizona or, the Giants that wound up playing undrafted free agents. There's teams out there that'll have more volatile QB situations this offseason that I think he'll be willing to bet on himself a little more elsewhere. But I think it's going to be one more season before we see him back in the CFL. And you know what? I want him to continue to go for this. And Jake Browning is the perfect example. Jake Browning's been on this, and it's different because he's never been in the CFL. But Jake Browning's been on the Stampeders neg list for 3 years. And nobody ever thought coming out of Washington that he had the arm strength and the physical tools to be a great quarterback. And he just continued to invest in himself, invest in his dream, invest in the opportunity. And then all of a sudden, preparation met opportunity, and he hit it out of the park this week. So I hope that Nathan Rourke pursues his dream vigorously, because we want all our kids to do that. And I think that's the inspiration, when you can continue to pursue it, live it, love it, and eventually be rewarded for it. And I hope it happens for him.
And quickly, Farhan, his brother, Ohio's Curtis Rourke, has entered the NCAA transfer portal. Where's he headed, and is this a good idea?
Yeah, I think it is a good idea. I think his draft stock fell a little bit over the course of this season because his numbers weren't as good. Came off the ACL, also had an ankle injury. I know last year he considered the portal, but ultimately the injury prevented that from happening, because then all of a sudden, no one's going to take him coming off an ACL. So, this is the right thing for him. I think he's going to get a Power 5 opportunity. I don't know that he's going to be guaranteed a starting spot. He'll have to compete for it, but he's got a ton of ability. I think he's got an opportunity to win a starting spot at a mid-level Power 5 school and elevate his draft stock going into next year.
Ryan Henderson wants to know about Andrew Harris. Is he retiring?
Yes, Hendo, he's retiring. We said that last year, man.
Yeah, but he didn't officially retire till, you
Ryan
can't
was
say
ahead
that
of
last
everybody.
year. Yeah, Ryan is right in this, but anyways,
This is my
we're
last
running out
year.
of time.
Okay. We're hoping to get Andrew on the show.
buddy.
That's why we asked. All right, Fran. Thank you, sir.
Take care, guys.